Hello everyone, and welcome to Who Cares, where we're going to discuss and debate the Doctor on his adventures through space and time.
So get ready to totally LOL AF, fellow teens. It's a gang sign.
I thought you were trying to dab for a second.
Is it a dab? Does that? That's still in, right?
Hello everybody, welcome back. We're now talking about the second episode of Series 10 of Doctor Who. We did a live show.
Smile!
Yeah, we did a live show for the first one because we were a little bit behind, but now we should be back on track for the rest of the season, and we're going to be able to talk about all of this season's emoji goodness? I don't know. This episode... This is the episode I was worried about the most when I looked at the titles and descriptions of the episodes, for a couple reasons. Firstly, because if you don't know the premise of this episode, they land on a planet, and they discover that there are robots on this colony from the future. The people are gone, and the robots speak emoji, and that was in like the Next Time trailer with Bill, the new companion, saying, they speak emoji. Oh, I'm so quirky. So that, first of all, I was like, oh god, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to be hip with the kids?
Yeah. You know the good thing though, it wasn't at all that.
No, I was surprised. I still think it's a weird concept, but it was done better than I thought.
How it kind of worked though was they said, well, it's been like a really long time, and they say the Earth's been evacuated. I think this is the same evacuation that took place with Matt Smith and the space whale.
Yeah,
I assume it is.
I think the Earth has been in Doctor Who. I think it has been evacuated more than once, and then they go back and fix it, and then
right. But I don't know, just based on the other technology.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Sure, I can see that.
Anyways, it's probably something totally different. Doesn't matter. But the way they basically wrote in emoji into this, as kind of a bait and switch, because emojis are like, haha, fun and lackadaisical. It turned kind of like not dark, but it was much more sinister, even than I expected it to be, I think. And then not very sinister. We'll talk about that. But they kind of explained it like, well, I mean, human language, it'll change or whatever. But this is, nobody can mistake what these things mean, basically, is what the emojis were for. Yeah.
Which is fine. That makes sense. The second reason I was worried about this episode is because of the writer. The writer of this episode, Frank Cottrell Boyce. If that name doesn't sound familiar to you, that's fine. I didn't know him before Doctor Who either. But last season... Was it last season? No, season before last season. He wrote In the Forests of the Night, which is quite possibly one of my least favorite episodes of Doctor Who.
It's my least favorite.
Is it your least favorite?
Easily my least favorite.
Oh, there's some early...
By far.
There's some series...
And that includes that abortion moon egg episode.
Oh, wow, really? Okay.
Which, well, by the way, the beginning, like the first half of that episode and the conversation they have is good, like, interesting... Like, they have the debate, but it's not like they have an abortion debate, but it's not, right? But then the egg cracks open and...
Moon dragon!
It's awful.
Anyway.
And then there's another fucking moon right there, and then the mass of those things doesn't make it... Anyways.
It laid an egg bigger than itself. It's a magic moon dragon. It hangs out with the space whale. Anyway, so... He wrote this episode, so I was going into this thinking, not only do we have the baggage of it being about emoji, whatever, robots, we also have this guy who wrote a weird ending. If you don't remember, In the Forest of the Night ended with magic bush fairies giving a girl back to her sister that she thought had died or had disappeared. It was stupid. It's incredibly stupid.
Or she did die and came back to life. I feel like there's a deleted scene from that episode.
I have no idea. But anyway,
he
wrote this one, and I think... To an extent, he redeemed himself. I wouldn't call this a great episode. It definitely falls apart a little bit at the end, and I'll talk about that when we get to it. But it's a fun episode. It's a Monster of the Week episode that didn't make me mad. I enjoyed a lot of the quips, and there were some fun jokes, and I think we're on a good track. If this is the one I was worried about, and it's actually pretty decent, we might have a good season coming. This also means, though, there's never been a perfect season of Doctor Who. There's always one or two just god-awful episodes. So one of the future episodes that I might be excited for is going to be like a landmine, and I'm going to be like, fuck. But anyway.
Well, I'm glad that episode 2 of this season didn't basically start us off with the wrong foot. Also, did you notice that they were still, like, establishing more like this is Doctor Who, and here are some facets of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Did you? That was interesting to me.
I noticed that. They're still doing
it.
Sort of reboot thing like they did with Matt Smith, and they did it in the episode The Pilot, where they did a lot of introductory stuff, but it's still continuing, and I like that. I like that they didn't just say, okay, here's the introductory episode, now everyone's caught up. It's still introducing it as if it's new, and they tend to do that with companions, but the way Bill's doing it is, it feels fine. I don't know if I'd call it organic. She's definitely the character that asks questions, but it hasn't gotten to the point yet where I feel it's obnoxious.
The one thing that bothered me from the beginning, which I could, once you let me know that it was the same writer as the Forest one, totally makes sense. They get like ear communicators, and then they use it once, and then nothing happens. Like it has no consequence, and they leave and they don't address it. It's just one of those stupid. It's a Deus Ex Machina basically, but it wasn't even one that they used. It was super weird. They basically just use it to communicate back and forth. But why doesn't he just you could have easily just for future episodes gone, well, he gives her a communicator implant thing, and now they can talk to each other.
They've literally done this before. Remember Rosa's cell phone?
Sonicked
it. All they would have had to do is, and even
but
remember,
instead it's like an ear thing. Maybe it'll stick. Maybe that's what it'll do. It'll stick, and they got upgraded, and that's the thing. But they never talk about it, so they're gonna have to remind the audience a couple times when that happens. Anyways, so it starts out, and you get they kind of blew their wad on the whole mystery of the things in the first 2 minutes.
They screwed the twist real bad. That whole cold open needed to be entirely different. Like almost 100%. You can't have almost any of that happen and have this still try and be a mystery, because they spell out to you exactly what's happening in the first. By the way, we're going to talk about the episode now. If you don't want spoilers,
it's spoilers. Spoilers. Shit.
It's good. Go check it out. The opening scene is literally, it just explains what's happening. Some of the settlers comes up and they're like, so and so is dead. You need to smile though. And they're like, what? And then the robot comes and she's not smiling. And it telegraphs it, because you have the thing on the back where it's like a badge, and it shows your emotion.
Yeah.
And it shows her getting sadder, and then it would show the robot face getting sadder, and then to the point where it's like a crying thing, and it goes over and kills her. You couldn't have spelled out what is happening any clearer than that. In fact, I think that explains what's going on a little bit better than the reveal later, if that makes sense. In a more concise visual way without expositing. But, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like what they should have done is have the Swarm be the bad guys, and then have the little emoji robots be the red herring good guys.
Maybe something like that.
And you know what I mean? Or just in the scene. You know what I mean? And they're maybe they're some exposition about how they try to cheer people up, and they try to, they're just assistants robots or whatever. And then this Swarm comes, and no one exposits about what those things are. It just starts killing people. And then you see it go into a wall, and then you see the Doctor and Bill walk into it, and now they're in a place where these bug things are in walls, and it's a danger, but they don't know about it, but the audience does. It makes it ominous, and then you build into, it's all just a cohesive unit, and they didn't mean to, whatever, blah blah blah.
Sure. I think this episode suffers from a problem that a lot of Moffat era Doctor Who has, and again, it's a pretty good episode, but I feel the need to point this out every time it happens. It suffers from an overabundance of ideas and not enough refining. You could have had 2 episodes. You could have had an episode with the smiley emoji robots, and a totally separate episode about this is a colony, but the colony itself is made out of tiny robots. How do you fight an enemy that is literally your surroundings? That's an episode in and of itself.
It's an outstanding Doctor Who episode too.
But they kind of smashed them together, and I think both ideas suffered for it a little bit. I felt like both could have been more interesting and more fleshed out and made creepier if they had been given more time individually, as opposed to them being both. I think it overcomplicated things.
I feel like part of it was they probably had that written, and then Black Mirror came out, and then they saw that B episode.
Oh, maybe they did. That would be almost exactly the same. They couldn't do that.
Right.
That would kind of make sense.
I bet that got scrapped, and they were like, well, just add it in, and the emoji robots will be more the bad guy, but we need these things because we already shot or have posters,
That would actually make a lot of sense. I don't know if that's true.
I bet this suffered from that.
Maybe.
Especially because, bee pollination is an actual problem, and you would have to pollinate on a colony if you wanted shit to work. So that's a thing that makes sense. And the building out of it, too, is very unique. And that's actually something I hadn't thought about before as far as the application of, like, nanorobots. Not that I'm the arbiter of nanorobot information or ideas. I'm just saying, like, that's a unique thing that, like, I don't know. You haven't seen it in like a Doctor Who episode before or similar stuff. So it was unique, but they kind of... I feel like it pulled punches probably because of Black Mirror.
A little bit.
And that sucks.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but that kind of thing's going to happen.
Yeah.
It still wasn't a bad episode, but...
No, again, it wasn't bad because they had really good character moments in between the two of them.
Yeah,
and
that was the strength,
I'm still more liking Bill.
I am too. Honestly, we talked about it in the live show. We have someone who we know who hates Bill off the bat for... what seems like almost no reason. They're projecting a lot of things onto Bill that I do not see in the character, and I don't get where they're coming from.
You know the thing that's going to trigger him a lot?
Huh?
You know exactly the scene? The food cubes. Because, they get served food by one of the helper robot emoji robots, and Bill gets one cube. Well, she actually walks over to the one cube, by the way.
Yeah.
She doesn't get served the one cube, she walks to it. And then the other plate has 2 cubes on it. And she goes and walks over and tries to eat it. And it kind of tastes like fish. It's made of algae. It's whatever. It's future food. You get it. And then she kind of makes a quick remark about, like, oh, did they just give men more portions or whatever? And then right away the doctor goes, no, I have 2 hearts. So it just detected 2 people.
Yeah.
You know
he's going to be so mad at that. He is going to be mad at that. That's a thing that, for me, shit like that just slides off me. I don't care.
But the joke is... The joke is, like, an anti... Like... people who jump to that, and then he immediately shuts her down, because that's the joke. The joke is, no, why would it be that? Of course it's not sexism.
I guess.
It's just how they operate. Why would they see your gender as anything that mattered? That was the joke. That was the narrative, and that's why it's funny. But instead, people are just going to be like, I'm triggered, patriarchy, ah! So, and honestly, this will happen for both sides. You'll see, like, a far left person go, she only got one thing. And then you see people on the far right, like, oh, they only gave her one thing because they're trying to push the pay gap thing. Like, no, it was literally the opposite of that. It's a narrative on you people. Anyways, skipping over that. That was interesting, by the way. Real quick,
that joke I thought was sloppy, though, because he says it gave him 2 portions because it decided it was 2 people because he has 2 hearts. But why did they put it on 1 plate? There should have been 3 plates then.
Right, I totally agree with you, and that's what I thought, too.
Sure,
but maybe they only had 1 plate because there was only 2 seats. But, also, that was a way of expositing that the doctor has 2 hearts. And then Bill goes, wait, you have 2 hearts? And then he glosses over it and they walk away. So it's just for the new Who people, which is actually kind of nice because it's not ham-fisted. That was set up in the... I don't know, it was set up nicely. It didn't feel pandering to new people for me, and I don't, because I don't need it, because I obviously watched Doctor Who.
No, I think that felt natural as far as they're concerned, because she does ask a lot of questions, and it comes up that he has 2 hearts sometimes. Yeah. What else? I liked the opening. Did you notice that the opening? How did the last episode end? They just walked into the TARDIS. This episode could have started...
Picked right up.
It picked right up. And actually, the end of this episode does the same thing. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that's kind of nice.
I'm genuinely wondering, because how this starts as Nardal, who I like a lot, and it's funny, his role has apparently shifted to he's almost like the doctor's like parent, or he's having to remind him.
He calls him Mum.
Yeah, he does. So Nardal's reminding the doctor, you can't leave Earth. The doctor is guarding something, which is the series arc under the college. So he's saying you have to remain on Earth and guard whatever this thing is. Yeah. And the doctor's like, it's fine. I'll take the TARDIS and I'll bring it up to my office because he's still a professor. Just, go start the tea or whatever. I'll be up in a second. Nerdle looks like he doesn't believe him, but he goes anyway. And then the doctor explains to her, no, we're going to go on an adventure. It's a time machine. We can be back up there before we even leave. So I'm thinking, is this entire season just going to be them adventure, and then the last episode they're going to show up and Nerdle's going to be there making... But no, because he's promoted to a series regular, technically, so he has to be in more episodes.
What it probably is we'll have a little gap. Then they'll go back, he'll be making the tea, and he'll notice, and he'll probably be like, you left. And Doctor will be like, it was like 1 second. He's like... And he gives him like some shit. And then he's like, I'm going to go with you. Then he goes, then he comes back. Maybe there's another gap.
Sure.
I like the idea of like They just go on 3 consecutive adventures, really, like, back to back to back, without any time gap in between, and there's not, like, adventures they're doing without us. That's actually kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, no.
It's fun. I like that. I like it better than actually the dynamic of, like, Clara getting picked up. I've never liked that, where they stay at home.
I really didn't like that either, because she was, like, doing her other shit, and then, like, obviously they do the Dany courting session episode where she's, like, running all over the place, and it's crazy. But, like, I prefer just, like, they're with him, and then they're not, and then they're with him, and then they're not. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't want every companion to be the same, but I tend to like the ones that just kind of go along for the ride with him.
Yeah, well, I like the Amy Rory stuff.
Yeah, that was good.
He would just, like, show up, and it was reminiscent of the Raggedy Man trope.
I like that's actually a really good mix because they did have their own life, but he'd show up and then maybe they would be gone for like months. They would stay with him for months, but then they'd come back. It was like vacations for them, and that's fine. I thought that was good.
Yeah, and plus obviously the whole Amy thing, she just basically wanted to be out doing stuff like that and felt normal life was boring. That arc is nice. So I'm wondering if Bill has I don't want to say a curiosity killed the cat because I don't think she's going to die. But I think like kind of I made a joke to you earlier about flying too close to the sun. Something like that, where it's like there's only so much that we ought know.
Maybe.
Because she's so inquisitive. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's headed that way because of her reaction to the space girl in the first episode. And obviously this is very early speculation. And just the way she's so forward inquisitive. It's usually those character things get flipped at the end in Moffat.
My thought is this is just a guess. I don't know this. This isn't even based on a rumor. This is my thought. I think what Moffat's going to do is he'll write her off at the end of the season because he wants to give the next showrunner a clean slate because that's generally which I actually feel a little bad for Pearl Mackie because I think she's doing a fine job so far.
She might come back. She might be a Donna.
Maybe. It's possible. But what I think is going to happen is at some point near the end of the season, for whatever reason, they're going to re-find that puddle girl. And I think she's going to go off. She's going to decide to go with her. Because what I got from the last episode, I don't think we talked about this in the live show. From what I got from that episode, it wasn't that the puddle was evil. It was just a misunderstanding, right? The girl wanted
same with these.
Mm-hmm. They wanted to take Bill. I keep wanting to call her Pearl because Bill is such a weird name to me for a lady. But wanted to take Bill with her to go on adventures, but she decided not to and go with the doctor instead. But I think they even mentioned, she said in the end of the first episode, like, we could find her if we, So I think that's what they're kind of setting up. She's going to go off on her own. Almost, Moffat really has a thing for creating lesbian romance spaceships traveling. You think Moffat just has journals full of fan fiction about various lesbian characters he's created that fly around space in different vehicles and diners and puddles and...
I think to his detriment, he tries to be inclusive.
But like,
you know what I mean? Like he's like, oh no, I should totally represent.
Sure,
like a character could be a lesbian, no big deal. And to him, it's not like he's forcing the issue. It's just like, yeah, it's fine. But he does it almost.
He does it to
affirmative action-y in his head, where he's like, oh no, but we need to make them a thing.
It pushes it to the point where it becomes token-esque, even though that's not his intention.
Right, and the Bill isn't that yet. By the way, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like. He has a predilection towards tokening things.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. That makes me happy, though. Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happened.
What else? I liked some of the questions she asked in the episode. I like that she asked about the police box. And he's like, well, it's whatever. And she's like, well, why do you like it? Because it is fixed at this point, as far as I understand. He could technically make it look like whatever he wants again, but he keeps it his police box. And she's like, well, why do you like the police box? He's like, who said I like it? And I just think that's hilarious. I don't think that's true. I think he does like it, but
I think he loves it
for sentimental reasons. That's how it was when he was with Susan and his first companions. Plus, I think he just thinks it's neat. I don't know.
To me, my headcanon is the Doctor thinks it's eccentric, so he keeps it.
Fez, like it's like a Fez bow tie.
It's like his Fez, yeah. It's his flair, if you will. And it's why he has Sonic sunglasses. Although he is using a screwdriver.
He has a screwdriver again. I don't know if they might bring back the glass. I don't actually mind the glasses.
He wore them in the first episode.
Did he? I didn't.
With the guitar, and then he took
he didn't actually.
He didn't use them.
Right. I don't mind if those come back every once in a while as like a reference. Like, hey, remember when he had these? I still like the screwdriver better, though. It's more iconic. I think it's more him.
Yeah, it's just more tactile too. Like just going like this kind of, it's just not as, your intent isn't as clear. But I think it's better if you just use those as like an around the house sonic screwdriver. Like maybe sometimes he'll be like boop like this, and someone will go, "What did you do?" He's like, "Sonic sunglasses" or whatever.
Sure.
And then that's like, you just know they exist, and that's fine. And they can float around a little bit, and you can make some gags early on episodes or something. But
yeah, let's see. Moving on, I guess the next major plot point is they discover what happened to the colonists. Turns out they got turned into bone fertilizer for the plants because robots don't understand human emotion and death and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't like, the goodness of this episode had nothing to do with the monster of the week.
No.
It was more just their interaction.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it was interesting and you learned about Bill, but it wasn't bad in any way. You kind of learned how she's kind of like, she did a Clara thing with the kid a little bit, where she was like, you know, don't cry, whatever. But obviously she was trying to save his life. But she was clearly trying to be strong for someone. So
you know what?
That's not.
You know what I just realized? This is the Beast Below. This is Amy's second episode was the Beast Below Space Whale episode. This is almost the same episode. It's the second one with a new companion. They're still introducing new concepts about the Doctor. It's a misunderstanding.
Crying children and a misunderstanding.
Yeah, this is. I guarantee Moffat said, "Hey, look at this episode. See how we did that? Do that, and don't put any bushes at the end."
Yeah.
And that's why this episode.
Yeah, but it wasn't like derivative necessarily
similar,
as deep.
But I get it.
It well, sure, but I mean, it wasn't like. I actually think the Beast Below is more interesting because of the water thing specifically.
The
Doctor
thing.
was. Remember, he looks at the water and it's not jiggling because the engine is not.
Sure, that was a better mystery for sure.
Right. Well, they didn't blow their wad right away. Like, imagine seeing the brain being shocked and drone kids walking around the bottom and then jumping into that episode. That's what happened.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, there was some sloppy. This needed another draft. We say that a lot about stuff. Need another draft. This needed
just honestly, if you would have taken out the first opening scene and then shown, if you wanted to have that scene, show it in the reveal on security footage. Like, have him hack one of the robots, and you can have that scene still, and you can see how, like, because that scene could be, if we had established deeper into that colony, and then she was, like, telling someone not to be sad, even though she's telling her sad things, like, that's an awkward situation, and that was played well, but it was in the first 2 minutes, so we couldn't really feel anything. I
would have had essentially people walking around saying things to each other that are very distressing,
right?
But continue to smiling and never reveal what actually happens. Like, you can even have a POV from the swarm where one of them does stop smiling or does stop being happy a little bit, and then you see something coming at them from the perspective of the thing, and then cut to, the intro. I don't know, but yeah, I
think it would have been better if they had a colony full of people sharing really awful news but smiling. That would have been a hook. You would have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's super odd. And so there's definitely many ways to go about making that effective, but this wasn't the way. Again, though, I enjoyed the episode. And it's just it's one of those things where you want better, but you got what you got, and it wasn't bad that you got it. It was like you got like a McDonald's cheeseburger, but you really wanted like a big juicy bacon cheeseburger. You're like, it was a okay cheeseburger, but I wanted like just this.
Yeah, it's like how people say sometimes the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I feel like it's the opposite here. The whole is less great than some of the good things in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Moving on, closer to the end, turns out the Doctor's going to blow up this building. He's going to blow up the colony because he thinks that a colony ship is on the way and that when they land, they will also be killed. So he goes to blow it up. Turns out, no. All the colonists are already there and cryogenically frozen, and the Doctor almost killed. He says the last of humanity, but no, I don't think so. Even in
we don't know what timeline.
We don't know. I guess but he just says shit sometimes, so I don't think that's true. Again, the space whale. The space whale ship exists, unless again it's a different apocalypse that they escaped Earth from.
Yeah. But did you see the way that they revealed that too? Like, they showed pods, everyone knows what that is without ever expositing about it. They showed that, and then again, it's a wad blow.
This episode had a lot of exposition that could have been ironed out by this needed a lesson in show don't tell. There was a lot of doctor expositing, which I like me a good doctor exposit scene, but when like a third of the episode is that, it gets a little tedious.
Well, it wasn't even him expositing though; it was just shots.
Yeah.
Like literally, the twist that there's people in there wasn't exciting or interesting because they showed the kid pop up.
Yeah, I wasn't that surprised.
And like what you do there is have the engine room be really chill, not in this cavernous sort of thing, and then have a kid walk into the scene while it's about to explode.
Sure.
And then have the doctor go, what are you doing? Who are you? And then he, like, maybe he stretches and yawns or something, like, oh, are we there yet or whatever? And then he's like, oh, fuck, I gotta undo this.
I think that would be better, too, actually. I think you're right.
Right. Like, tension. Think of every episode as a rubber band. You have to stretch it to make it tense. Now, you can't overstretch it, or the intenseness just kind of, it snaps and it doesn't work anymore. But this one, they just kind of threw a rubber band on the ground. You know what I'm saying? It was just sat there. There was no tension whatsoever because of the way they structured the edit. And it wasn't even the edits. It was probably storyboarded this way. It needed to be like, you needed to move two scenes over and kind of have the other stuff in front of it. It was, I don't know. I wanted that big juicy bacon cheeseburger. Instead, I got like a number 2 from McDonald's, which is I think those are still the 2 cheeseburger things.
I think it is because they think they're smart or something. Anyway, so after that happens, this is where it starts to fall apart for me. Again, still an all right episode, but this is where I go, ugh. Okay, so they wake up. The people start waking up. One of the first people to get up is a technician. They are like a programmer. They know how the systems work. So they wake up, and he's like, I didn't think anyone was going to be up before me, to the doctor, because he's a systems guy. He knows how all this shit works. Presumably, he needs to check stuff and make sure everyone else gets up. And, he's a technical guy. He knows how the systems work. However, at no point does it acknowledge that he should know that the place is built out of micro robots. Everyone is shocked that this build, like, in the orientation, they were like, hey, so you guys are going to be cryogenically frozen and blasted across the universe. Just so you know, the building you're going to be staying in is made out of tiny robots, so don't be concerned if tiny robots start coming out of the walls, Were they waiting for the landing orientation to explain that? Or
And then they did the humanity is scared of things they don't understand trope, which that was the worst part of it. And thankfully, that scene is short and resolved quickly, and the doctor just takes care of it by figuring out the emoji robots are their own species, and they were just trying to the reveal is they're not evil. They were just trying to follow orders, but they're kind of like a subservient slave race almost. So he basically frees them from that attachment and gives them control of the place, and then forces an alliance, which is a thing he'll often do, is force alliances. Fine. But they did that framework setup with the whole humans just want to kill things they don't understand, which is probably accurate. But that guy specifically, he could have had any other job. He could have been a janitor, and it would have made sense. But they gave him the tech guy job, and so he doesn't know anything. Don't do that.
Not only that, what bugged me is the doctor could have apparently fixed this entire situation immediately at any point, but he doesn't decide to until he discovers they're sentient.
He didn't know.
But here's the thing. What he did to stop the robots has nothing to do with the fact that they're sentient. Think about it.
Well, they did get shot open, though, and then he looked at the parts and stuff.
Right, but all he says is every computer has a reset button. He didn't think... All he would... And in fact... The fact that he didn't rip one's head off until he realized it was sentient and reprogrammed it is kind of messed up. That's when he decided...
they can't feel pain. But
I guess, but it's like...
I agree with you. I thought that too when he ripped his head off. I was like, that one's going to get offended.
And
because there was 2 in the room. It was,
And it's another Deus Ex Machina. I like the sonic screwdriver when it's used correctly. I don't like when it's used as the Deus Ex Machina. I'm going to magic this situation away, and that's what this was.
I don't know if it was quite as bad as some of the other uses of them, I actually like when he tries to use it as a Deus Ex Machina. It doesn't work like robots sure would.
Sure.
That's a good use of it. I love when they take the power away from that little thing. Yeah, no, you're right. It just like that the resolution of that wasn't good, but the how Bill reacts during that, how the doctor reacts during that, like they both did fine. I don't think like again the idea is really good. They just didn't do it well.
Nah, I as much as I think this is an improvement over in the Forest of the Night, other writers for Doctor Who could have done a better job, for sure. No offense to this guy. Maybe not Mark Gaddis. No offense to this guy, by the way. I'm sure Frank Cottrell boys, he's getting hired for some reason. I'm sure he's done good work. I'm not shitting on the guy personally.
I am.
I think isn't he like an author for like adolescents or youths or something?
That's probably why his plots are so fucking simple and telegraphed. Like honestly, it's just the telegraphing that really, like I could deal with that Deus Ex Machina ending if the other stuff wasn't telegraphed. Because like the thing you have to remember about every Doctor Who episode, it's a mystery to be unwrapped by the viewer. Every episode, no matter what it is, there's got to be a mystery. Because that's what it's about. It's about the Doctor figuring out a problem. Even if the mystery is just, what is the problem?
My favorite explanation of how to explain Doctor Who to people is it's reverse Scooby-Doo. So in Scooby-Doo, they go in and they think it's like a monster, and then at the end they unveil, it's not a monster, it's a guy in a mask. Doctor Who's the opposite. Every episode, something weird is happening, and then they unmask the person, and it was an alien or a robot or something. It's basically the opposite.
Yeah, but also the Doctor almost always knows something is amiss, which I like.
Yeah,
and he did immediately. Like some of the good parts about this episode is he withheld information from Bill so that she would remain happy to protect her, but then he found like he basically knew that the people were being mulched and held it from Bill. And then later on, Bill goes and sees this like dead body, and then they discover that because of her death, it was like a grief train because it was the first person to die there. That's interesting.
I think the idea of grief as a virus, that's a good idea for a Doctor Who episode too. Again, too many overabundance of ideas. They
didn't need the nanobots, basically.
Yeah, if you would remove that would have cleaned it up. Just have the robots kill them. Because they already kind of remind me of the ones. Remember the girl who waited where Amy was trapped in that facility? They look almost exactly the same, except they have screens on their faces. Those robots.
You could have just zapped them, like,
sure,
you're dead. Okay, woo. Whatever.
They could have even
walked slow, because they even have that really good chasing. Things walk slow because they don't need to chase you.
Yeah. There are a lot of good lines like that. Again, this is why I like the episode, and it's not bad, because a lot of the small stuff like that works. For instance, he's like, there. By the way, this is shot pretty well for Doctor Who, season after season.
Very well. I really like the panning shot from the TARDIS in the field to the thing while they're running through. That just looks like a really good shot.
Yeah, a guy named Lawrence Go directed this. I don't recognize other things he's directed, actually. He directed the pilot as well, the last episode. Interesting.
That was well shot too.
And
the pilot had good angles, especially in that scene where she's in the courtyard and it's dark lit, and then up there you can see the Doctor in his office is the only light on in the whole thing. Yeah, it was kind of symbolic. It was interesting.
The cinematography and the directing has continued to progressively get better every season. Yeah, I've noticed.
Agreed.
I don't know if it's just because they put more money into it, or if literally it's the same directors and they're just getting better at it as it goes.
Well, I think actually part of it is the stuff that they go up against, not only in the BBC with like, Luther and Sherlock and Broadchurch, which are amazing television shows, but American television like AMC, like an HBO, they really stepped the game.
So they just had
cinematography's I think that their peer group, they have to step up, and it shows. And having one genuinely good science fiction show is so refreshing. Although I do hear that Legion's very good.
Legion's great.
Sci-fi, but it's also comic booky, so I'll watch that. But yeah, it's the quality is getting way better, and I know we nitpicked the shit out of this, but genuinely a lot of really good moments and a lot of good Doctor stuff. Just kind of like she says something like, "Oh, that those robots suck," and he looks at her and he goes, "Don't make personal remarks. That's rude." Just and she's like, "The robots? That doesn't." Why is it rude to be robots? And I don't know why he said that, but it's funny.
You know
that
why?
He's offended on behalf of the robots.
I just realized why I like this show, why I'm liking this season so far, even though some of the writing hasn't been like as good as previous seasons. You know why?
What's that?
Because the past like 2 seasons have been the Clara Show featuring Doctor Who, and now we're back to the Doctor is the main guy, and Bill, he's teaching Bill. I like the dynamic so much better. It reminds me a lot of actually the 7th Doctor and his companion Ace, because she called him Professor. It was very student teacher, but like the cool teacher. You know, you're having a good time learning, but you respect them, and that's the relationship that they have, and I like it a lot more.
She even mentions one time, she gets super excited about, I think, the trip in general, and you're the best tutor ever. Like, and it felt genuinely like she does a really good job acting grateful in that, Pearl Mackie. And I don't know, it just, like, I feel like their relationship is very cool teacher-student, and there's not this romantic tug. Obviously, she's not sexually attracted to men, but, like, even beyond that, there's not this, like, fawning sort of, he doesn't have this, like, he's obviously superior, and he's in charge, but it's not like this looming presence.
Here's how I would describe it, if I had to explain it. I feel like if you were shooting an episode from Amy's perspective, or Rose's perspective, or Martha's perspective, any character that really idolized the Doctor and put him up on this pedestal, you might shoot a shot from down below where, like, maybe he's going to save her or something, and you get a good hero shot. Sure. If in this series, I don't think you would ever get that shot with Bill and him. I think she respects him and is starting to, and we'll see, like, oh wow, he really saves people. But I don't think she would see him in that he's a superhero. I think she sees him more as he's a guy, he's doing his best, he's going around and we're going to go do some stuff, but like he's still just, he's the Doctor, you know, he's not a god, he's not, he's
totally agree.
And I like that dynamic. It's not, I thought it was going to be kind of a Dr. Donna thing, but I'm actually glad it's not. They're not even really, I mean, I'm sure they're friendly, but they're not best friends. You know what I mean? It is a different dynamic. And maybe it'll shift more to that, but I do feel a difference.
I think he always ends up getting a pretty deep connection with people.
Oh,
but,
sure.
Like, he met Amy when she was a kid, and he felt guilty. And, like, so he's got this sort of heartstring tug thing going on with him. And then Donna, had the wedding thing, which is, big deal. Martha just got trapped on the moon.
Yeah.
Rose, there was mannequins, but it was kind of the first person he saw after the Time War.
Oh, yeah. I guess this is kind of the first time that he's just been like, I'm interested in you. Come with me.
Right.
In a long time. I think that happened
and the
in
only
classic.
other one, like, Clara started like that, but again, she died like 3 different times, and he's like, why does she keep dying?
And he was obsessed.
It turns into an obsession. This one is just like a natural how friendships work. Like, it feels good. And the next episode, and we might as well talk about the next time now because we're done with this episode.
Sure.
There's a quick shot of her like crying, and actually looks like she's acting really well, and like asking if he kills people or has killed people. And the idea that like learning new stuff about your new friend could upset you is also good. So I like that they're going to, it's like, it's not this all in on the Doctor because he's amazing and we go on trips. It's like, no, it's a tenuous, like there's a give and take relationship, and I think that's going to be interesting. I'm actually looking forward to it. I thought because she was Bill and she was the lesbian and she was black and she was like very loud colors and a lot of like panache, I thought it was going to be a meme. I thought she was going to be just like a caricature. She's not at all. She's a really good character, and Pearl Mackie is a good actress, and that's actually very refreshing. So, looking forward to it. What else happens in the after?
Not a lot specifically, but if I can read the description, kind of explain. Interestingly, Nardole is on IMDb. It says he's in the next episode. So
it could be he finishes the tea and he's like, "Where the fuck is he?"
Maybe it might just be an end of. This might be where they take a break at the end of the episode.
It's probably the case.
But what happens is the Doctor. But see, in the description it says the Doctor, Nardole, and Bill have to find a mysterious individual known as the Icebender to save a planet. So
the maybe Nardole can like do other stuff because he's not human.
Maybe he has the Doctor might have given him what are they called? I always forget.
Captain Jack time thingy.
Vortex manipulator might have given him one in case of emergency or something. I don't know. But the funny thing, this is takes place during a frost fair. If you don't know what that is, I'm not very familiar either. From what I understand, during the winter in London, when the Thames would freeze and you could walk on it, they'd have like frost fairs where they'd go out and they'd have a little fair on the ice, which is interesting. The Doctor has been to many frost fairs. Let's see, this is funny. The second Doctor and his companions Jamie, Ben, and Polly visited the 1648 frost fair. This is what I find interesting, though. In February 1814, the 10th Doctor was there in 1814, as was the first Doctor.
Wait, the 10th Doctor?
It was a book. Sorry, I should say. It was a book.
Oh, I was going to say, he never went to that.
This is extended universe.
Gotcha.
First Doctor Stephen Taylor and Vicky Pallister also visited the 1814 Frost Fair in February of that year, which Vicky described as the last great Frost Fair. That's from an audio. And then the 11th Doctor, River Song, and Stevie Wonder visited the 1814 Frost Fair. So there are 3 versions of the Doctor.
Stevie Wonder. He makes a joke about Stevie Wonder at one point.
That was from that joke. Is River, for an anniversary, he took her and Stevie Wonder to the Frost Fair and he performed. So I don't know.
Tell him.
I don't know which year this will be, but I think it'd be funny if intentionally they made it that one again, just to make a joke out of it. Yeah, I think it'd be funny. It kind of looks like that era. It's Victorian. I don't know, but
yeah, it could be close. That'd be funny. Yeah.
That was
especially if they heard Stevie Wonder in the background just for
hilarious.
Like a second.
That'd actually be a really in-depth.
That's
reference.
A deep reference.
Yeah.
So I hope that happens. Like, very superstitious.
Sure. Even if it was just like on an unrelated instrument or something in the background and you could hear it, but maybe, I don't know. I would do that, but I don't know. I'd be worse than Stephen Moffat if I were a writer and wrote Doctor Who, because it would be very fanficky. It's a good thing I don't have power to make
I don't think it would, honestly. I feel like, oh, this is a good idea, and it would stand alone. And then at times you'd be like, well, we could put it here and make a reference.
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like if you and I decided to do Doctor Who stuff, I think we'd come up with some pretty good ideas. We should be the showrunners, dude. Okay. I don't think we could do it for long. I think we got like 2 seasons in us. I think we have 26 episodes max.
Sure.
And probably we'll really fuck it up on the last Christmas special, but we can get you 26 episodes, BBC.
Okay.
Hit us up.
Give us a call.
Anyway.
So the episode is basically about they go to the Frost Fair and there's a sea monster under the Thames. And the joke is because if you ever looked at the Thames, it kind of looks like a snake. It goes blah, blah, blah. So the joke is that I think the entire Thames is full of this giant snake serpentine monster is going to be the... How do you describe Doctor Who isms like that? Like when I hear a plot for Doctor Who, I think to myself, that's very Doctor Who, but I can't put my finger exactly on what it is.
Okay, so what it is they take idioms or urban legends or common saying. Well, that's an idiom, I suppose, but like
common things,
common themes in human experience that aren't necessary, that they're kind of innocuous, and then they put an alien presence in the space of the actual reason the thing is how it is. So,
sure.
For instance, the silence we mentioned on the last one. Why you're scared of the dark is because aliens called the silence, like they're in the corner of your eye, and sometimes like you feel like you're being watched. Well, you are, but when you turn away, you don't remember it. So that's why you have that feeling.
Yeah.
Or what was the? There's several of these. The eye booger one. There's a lot of stuff like that though. That's very Doctor Who-y. So if you're a Who fan, you know exactly what we're talking about. But if you're not, you're like you're rambling.
Anyway, I think that's it. We'll be back every episode for the rest of the season, and of course the Christmas special to discuss Peter Capaldi's last season. I hope that's not a spoiler for you.
Someone said it was a spoiler. It's like, but they've announced it. It's like, it's an announcement.
There are different camps on spoilers as far as Doctor Who. Some people say, and this is basically my opinion too, if the BBC makes an official announcement, it's not a spoiler.
Spoiler.
That's my opinion. Right. I understand why people disagree, though, because sometimes the BBC does announce things earlier than they should. But in fairness, like the Sim Master thing, I probably would have hid that, but some things are just hard to hide. You know what I mean? That actually got leaked before they officially announced it. Someone leaked that. So
Yeah, there's too much information
what
out now.
what do you do? And a lot of the stuff they film out in the open for Doctor Who. They actually film on location. It's not all studio sets. So people are there filming. It's hard to keep secrets like that sometimes. So
yeah. Anyways, that's it.
Yep. So until next time, Hugo.
Jake.
This has been an actually all right episode of Doctor Who. So
yeah, this show's called Who Cares though.
Oh yes, it is, and
it's clever.
If there was like a middling thumbs up emoji, here's where I would put it. I'm hip with the kids, Moffat, is what I'm saying to you.